we have begun, and let's just have some fun today on this Saturday morning. Welcome to the 12-hour podcast, Amit.
Welcome, Adam. And what fun are you expecting?
I don't know. I mean, I think just the fact that we get to hang out and talk, that in itself is the fun that I'm expecting. So,
True, it's a
yeah,
fun of the week.
yeah, nice to do. And it actually worked out yesterday. Like, I know that we weren't able to do this at a regular time, but it worked out yesterday quite nicely because I was playing some video games with friends, and I was having a good time. So not that I don't have a good time doing this. It's just like, when you're in a moment, you're already doing something. You're like, I don't really want to do something else right now. I would
Mm,
have, and I would have still enjoyed myself. But I think you know what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah. And surprisingly, at the same time, I forgot that it was the time of our podcast.
Yeah,
So it was quite interesting that we both were kind of out of this realization.
yeah. So it worked out quite nicely, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what do you think about shifting the day or the hour from next week?
we could do that. Do you want to do
Because
the same time again or something different?
we can talk about that after the podcast because
Okay.
I was thinking even the last time the same thing happened. So why not figure out some other day or time?
Mm, mm. Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, this time works really well for me, but we can talk about it afterwards if you want.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
awesome.
see.
All right, we'll figure it out. So, yeah, as usual, I think we should do the typical sort of
Yeah.
description of what our intention is with this podcast and what we want to let the non-listeners know because we don't have any. We still have like zero views we're getting on every single video lately.
Which makes me wonder if we even have to put out the disclaimer.
Yeah, for real. But just in case we get one viewer, we want to make sure that we're letting that one viewer know that don't
And
subscribe.
maybe maybe we can ask them to just go to the previous video and see what we are going to say.
Yeah, it's true. So we can get that one view on the video, which we don't want to get in the first place.
Mhm.
So I'll
and
just,
then
yeah, I'll
and then
say
we can ask him to not share it to others.
exactly, because that's what we do around here. Again, we differentiate ourselves from everything else that's going on YouTube. We don't share any of our content with people. We don't subscribe to it. We don't comment. We don't like. We don't even watch it. If you're watching this right now, what in the world are you doing? You should be doing something else with your life. You don't really want to be doing this. This is probably the worst decision you've ever made to even watch this far into this. So uh, make better choices. Make better choices and enjoy your life.
You have better things to do.
You have better things to do. So many things to do. Like,
Take this as a sign. Go and work on your passion.
yeah, exactly. Don't even work on your passion. Just like do nothing. Like even just doing nothing would be better than this. Like just sit
Dolce
and
far niente.
yeah, just sit and stare at a wall. That would be a better choice.
A plain wall.
Yeah, a plain wall has no features. That would be a much better choice than watching this podcast. But if you are still here, even
That
after
could be
this long,
meditative.
yeah, exactly. If you're here this long, then thank you. We appreciate it. And we're just going to talk about random stuff. We never really know what we're going to talk about. This is completely unscripted, and it's just us conversing and getting to know each other better. Because this is actually the only way we know each other is by
That's true.
talking on here. Otherwise, uh, we wouldn't. Yeah, we would. I don't know what we would do. I don't know. Would we still be talking if we weren't if we didn't have this? Maybe.
Mm, I doubt it. Maybe not as frequently as we do.
Yeah.
Not once a week, maybe.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Um, okay, so maybe start by telling me about your week. Give me a recap of what's happening with your nephew. Is he gone now?
He's still around, and Like I mentioned last time, I'm not feeling uh, like the zest. I'm not feeling the zest to continue with what I was trying to do.
Okay.
But yeah, he's still hanging around, and right now I'm in the observation mode. I'm trying to observe him and understand what changes have been in him, and also I'm trying to see if he is able to do few things on his own,
Right.
which currently I'm not seeing the signs of. I'm still trying to see some signs that he will go back home and do these things on his own,
Right. Right.
which
Right.
doesn't seem likely right now.
Well, I mean, is he doing the things that you think would be best for him to do while he's with you?
Not all the time, very rarely,
Very rarely, yeah.
not
So,
as frequently as you would expect. Yeah.
yeah. Or is maybe that you would want, yeah, or that you would think would be good for him. Yeah.
Mm,
So, yeah, if he's like that with you, then for sure he's going to be not nearly as good, most likely, when he's back home with his
mm.
folks, yeah. And I understand
Yeah, and
also
there's
not,
only few days left. Yeah.
yeah. And I also understand like not having the energy or the drive or the motivation to want to do more than you've already done because yeah it can be draining, it can be draining,
Mm,
yeah. This gives you an
true.
idea of what it would be like to have your own kid. Do you want to have your own kids?
Sure, maybe one.
Yeah, one. Okay. I don't know how people do it, man, to have a kid 24/7 all the time. Like I would lose my mind.
I understand. Like I've seen my friends having kids, and I can say it's 50-50 always, based on the kids of my friends. There's always a 50% chance that they will turn into a brat. They won't listen to their parents.
Yep.
The parents will have to cater to them. But 50% chances are that they are going to turn out well and they're going to be well behaved, smart, etc.
Right. Be able to make good decisions. Do you think it's a genetic thing, or do you think it is like do you think it's completely environmental, like them and sort of the people that they're interacting with, whether it's like other kids or their parents or if they have siblings or don't have siblings? Like, do you think it's all due to that in terms of how they turn out, or do you think it's like there's a genetic aspect to it as well?
That's quite hard to determine, but I believe everyone will agree that both aspects have a role to play, nature versus nurture.
Yeah, I think so. I just wonder like what it is in terms of like level of influence that each one has. And I wonder if there is sort of like an average. I wonder if there are sort of edge cases where it's like some people it's like completely genetic with how they turn out, and then some people it's like completely, or like maybe completely is the wrong word, but like a very large majority genetic in terms of how they turn out, and some other people a very large majority of how they turn out is due to their environment and their interactions with people and things like that. Yeah.
So, if you want to quantify that, then maybe I would use Mendel's law. There's a law in biology that basically describes how many chromosomes are taken from the father and mother and what is the genetic combination of the offspring. The probability of that can be calculated fairly within a you know within an acceptable range. Let's say out of 100%, they are 30% like dad and 30% like mom and 40% like neither of them.
Mm.
So we can be sure 60% of the characters would be predetermined
Mm.
based on Mendel's law. Now, rest 40% depends on the nature nurture part,
Mm.
how the parents and the friends or relatives are treating him while growing up. So I think, yeah, Mendel's law can give a fair idea of that.
But of course, it's probably like if that is the case, then and I'm saying if because I'm guessing that this isn't. I mean, Moo can look this up, but I'm guessing
Mhm.
that there isn't any like hard evidence to show that this is definitely true, right? I think this is
Yeah,
this is a theory.
yeah, it's my guess. Yeah, it's my guess.
Okay, so but let's say that that's true. Let's just say that that's hypothetically, in this, we'll just say it's true. So I would think that there are cases where it's instead of like 30-30-40, it's more maybe like 20-20. What would that be? 60.
60.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
quite possible.
yeah, or maybe like 10-10-80, or maybe, I don't know, 40-40-10, or 40-40-20, I guess
20.
it'd be. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, very likely because what happens during the what was that zygote formation? I think it was called zygote.
Mm.
Zygote is the molecule that is formed by combination of the male and female chromosomes. I think, or is it gamete? I will have to look it up.
Yeah.
So basically, gamete is the combination of the reproductive fluids,
Mm.
and that is when the chromosomes are decided.
Mm.
And yeah, so what is happening inside that microscopic level, that cannot be determined, right?
Mm.
Because there are millions of combination possible. One of those combination happens and ends up being what we are talking about, 30, 30, 40, but that can be determined much, much later,
Mm.
not in advance.
Right. Isn't it 23 chromosomes from your mom and 23 chromosomes from your dad? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, let's look it up. What is zygote and what is gamete
I
and the
I think
difference
I
between the
think it's
two?
gamete. Yeah, zygote. I think it's completely different. I don't know why I said zygote, but gamete is the word I was looking for.
And gamete. Was it gamete like GAMIT?
GAMETTE.
G. Sorry, say it again. GE.
GAMETTE.
Got it. Okay. What does. Okay. I didn't even finish my sentence, and I just wrote, what does zygote and gamete? And it's just knowing that I want a definition. Um, Okay, a zygote and a gamete are two different stages of the reproductive process in sexual reproducing organisms such as humans. Oh, it's gamete. It's not double T. According to this, it's just one T, but it doesn't matter. Whatever.
Okay.
A gamete is a specialized reproductive cell that fuses with another gamete during fertilization to form a zygote. Okay. In
Mm,
humans, gametes are produced by the process of meiosis, which produces cells with half the normal number of chromosomes. In males, the gamete is called a sperm cell, and in females, the gamete is called an egg cell or ovum. Zygote. A zygote is the cell formed when two gametes, one from each parent, fuse during fertilization. The zygote contains the full complement of chromosomes, with half coming from the mother's gamete and half coming from the father's gamete. The zygote is the first stage of development of a new organism and has the potential to develop into an embryo and eventually a fully formed. So it sounds like you were right the first time.
mm.
Yeah, that it's
So,
the zygote is the combination of the two.
right.
Okay, interesting. All right. Yeah, I know. I've heard the term zygote before because it's the name of a band.
Okay.
There's a band called Zygote. I wonder if there's a band called Gamut. Probably is. There probably is. Yeah. All right. Cool. Very cool. So we could probably look that up as well and find out like what sort of studies have been done to try to determine how much of our personality is dependent on our genetics
Mm.
versus, and maybe like, I mean, I would think at first it's all genetic. Like how you are as an infant is all genetic, right? Because you have no, there's nothing environmental that would really be, or very minimal environmental impact, I would imagine, because you don't really have a lot of interaction with.
No, I feel it depends what kind of toys you are given in the crib. That
Right,
also matters.
right. But I'm talking about
What
like,
kind of music is played when you're a toddler?
right. But I'm talking about
Like
like when you,
classical music is known to,
right.
develop the brain faster.
But this is interesting. So, like, I'm talking about like when you first come out of the womb, like you're first born,
Okay.
and let's say you get born in the hospital. I wonder
So yeah,
how much gets
at that point, yeah,
impacted.
it
Yeah,
would be, yeah, at that point, just when the baby is out of the womb, it
yeah,
would be 100% nature,
yeah,
and as much as it comes into contact with already existing living beings and things,
yeah.
the nature part would go on increasing.
I wonder how much of an impact um, the environment has on the personality, on your personality. Like, when does that start? Like, does it start like immediately? Like, as soon as you're out of the womb? Like, depending on if you, for instance, if you were born in a hospital versus, let's say, you were born, I don't know, in the backseat of a car, right? Like, would you respond? Would your response be exactly the same very initially, like in terms of how you would respond to your environment, or how you just not even respond to your environment, but just like how you would respond to the fact that you're born now? Like, would it be exactly? You have no way to know for sure, right? It's not like you can compare the two. But I just kind of wonder in my mind, would you cry the same amount? Would you cry in one scenario but not in the other? Would you be kind of looking around more in one scenario versus another? Would you like how much, like how quickly is the impact of your environment on you? Like, is it right from the get go immediate? I wonder.
If there is a case in the history where there are twins, let's say twins are being born, one gets born on the way in the ambulance and the other gets born in the hospital,
Yeah,
then comparing the two would give you that answer probably.
yeah, or at least would help. But you couldn't say for sure still, because twins could have different personalities. I mean, I know twins that have, well, I mean, they have similar personalities for sure, but there are like slight differences. There are some slight differences, enough that you can tell they're two separate people when you interact with them.
Of course, still, the kind of difference that we are looking for, to understand that that is the only scenario that I can think of.
Right,
One is born in the
like a real life
vehicle and the
scenario.
other in
Yeah,
the hospital.
yeah,
Real life, yeah.
like a real life, like actual scenario where you could get closer to understanding that for sure. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. But I don't know if any scientific studies could say for sure. Like, you could never know for sure
No.
because there's no way to really have a proper comparison. Yeah,
Yeah, because these studies can take up to 20 years, maybe 25 years, because we are still developing as a person till late 20s,
yeah,
or even and in some cases in 30s.
yeah. But it's fair to
So we
say
don't know.
that environment has an impact for sure. It does, because we know
For
that.
sure.
Like, we know that we could take you could take somebody who has a particular personality and put them in a different environment, and all of a sudden there's something about them that is not, definitely not the same. Like, it's recognizably not the same. So we know environment has an impact, but there's no way they could have like a complete impact, like an 100% impact on how they are as a person. Like, it does come down to some sort of genetic element in terms of who they are, how they
Yeah,
respond to
I'm
things.
I'm starting to think about myself, as in I can say with fair amount of certainty that I'm very different from all my relatives. Not physically, but the way I think, the way I make perspectives about things. So I've definitely seen that comparison, and I can certainly say that I am much, much different than them in terms of habits and behavior characteristics. But the thing is, I have been almost all my life been around them.
Hmm.
So where did this change in personality come from?
I mean, there's different things that you've experienced in them, or maybe you also like. Even if you experience the thing that's interesting too is like you can experience the same thing with somebody, right? You've seen this happen so many times where you experience the same thing, but you have a different perspective in terms of that experience. Like you,
And that perspective is predetermined, pre-programmed, like nature.
I think it's probably like due to a lot of factors, right? It's due to like just we all see things with a different lens, right? So like you could be sitting with like your mom and watching a movie together, for example, right? Watching exactly the same movie, but you're going to interpret it slightly differently, or you're going to have like a different perspective on some of the characters, like whether you liked,
Definitely.
yeah, like so. I think that also has to do like with everything that's happened before you watch the movie from you as a person, right? Also, is like the environmental impact is also due to like the time period that you grow up in, right? Like we know for sure that people that grew up, in ancient Egypt, for sure had a different perspective of the world. We know that because we can go back and we can see scripture and we can see how people wrote down and recorded things. We can see that their perspective on how things worked in the world was quite a bit different from our perspective now, due to the knowledge that we've attained and the things that and the technologies that we now have that help us understand and perceive the world with a little more clarity, with more objective truth. So everything that happens before an experience impacts how you perceive that experience to be, and that's why you can.
Mm.
That's why you'll have a different experience, or you'll have a different perspective of that experience, even if you're it's happening like with another person. You're both experiencing it together, right?
That brings us back to your question. At what age does it start?
I think it probably happens immediately. I think
Hmm.
it starts like right away. I mean, you could even argue that if you took the same, I wonder if even if you took exactly the same genes, because there's surrogate mothers, right? I would think you take the exact same genes and you're growing inside one mother versus exact same genes growing inside a different mother
Hmm.
because of what one mother might eat, or the air one mother might be breathing, or the different kind of sounds of the environment that the mother lives in. I think all these
Or the
things,
physical,
yeah,
or the physical shocks and all.
I think all these things would have an impact on your development in the womb. So by the time you come out, you're probably going to be just a little bit different. It's going to set you on somewhat of a different personality course.
Now that basically means even before you're born, the process of your personality formation has already begun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose so.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, because the mother, if she's living in a polluted environment, the kid is likely to grow up with asthma.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much n- not even environment, it was pre-environment.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah, I think, but which one has a larger impact? I guess maybe that's really the question. Which one has the largest impact? Is it environment or is it your genetics? I wonder.
That's quite hard to answer.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about impact, impact is not necessarily quantifiable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like asthma, it can stop you from being an athlete or a soldier. But not having that, let's say if the same person grew up without asthma, would they really go into army or sports,
Yeah.
athletics? Would they have the same kind of physical development?
Yeah. I mean, maybe not. I mean, if they're not, yeah, if they don't have the ability to be able to perform in an athletic way because of their asthma, to the same capacity that they would have normally been able to if they didn't have asthma, then would they wouldn't even necessarily discover what they're actually capable of,
Mm,
and that wouldn't. And of course, if you're involved in one types of activities versus another, that's also going to affect your personality.
so that's hard to quantify.
Hmm.
Maybe we can only answer that in yes and no then, because quantification is not possible.
But then you can also argue and say, like something like asthma, is that a genetic factor or is that an environmental factor? Because the environment is what led to your genes being affected and then therefore having asthma. Or can you say that you would have had asthma no matter what the environment would have been? Like, how do you know? How do we
Well,
know?
in my case, I have asthma, and
Okay.
that is uh, because my father had it and my grandfather had it. So in my case, it is definitely genetic,
Hmm.
and the triggers are environmental.
The triggers in terms of when you have an asthma attack, it's dependent on
Yeah,
your environment at the time.
it depends on the season, it depends on the pollution level, it depends to exposure to the pollutants.
Mm, interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. So then you would say that that is genetic for sure.
But yeah, of course, there is the other kind of asthma as well, which is not genetic. I think that's called COPD.
Mm.
That's called COPD, I guess.
COPD.
Hmm.
What is COPD? I'm on ChatGPT. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's a progressive lung disease that makes it difficult to breathe. COPD is a term that encompasses several lung conditions, including chronic bronchitis and emphysema, which are characterized by airflow obstruction and breathing difficulties. So, is COPD a type of asthma? Asthma. Um, there are two different distinct respiratory conditions, but they share some similarities in terms of symptoms and airflow obstruction. However, they have different underlying causes and mechanisms. Um, COPD is primarily caused by long-term exposure to irritants such as cigarette smoke, air pollution, blah, blah, blah. Asthma is a chronic inflammation condition of the airways that can be triggered by various factors, including allergens, respiratory infections. Okay, COPD airflow obstruction is usually not fully reversible, even with treatment. Asthma airflow obstruction is often reversible, either spontaneously or with medications such as bronchodilators. Bronchodilators?
Yeah,
Bronchodilators. Do you say bronchodilators or bronchodilator?
bronchodilators.
Bronchodilators. Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, yeah, of course. Um, okay. Okay. Gotcha. Interesting. So it's reversible. I guess not in all cases it's reversible, but I
Yeah, in
suppose
my dad's
it's.
case, it's true. His asthma went away in his 30s,
Oh
and
wow.
I'm in my 30s, and I'm actually feeling that my level of asthma is dropping every year. So the
That's
inhaler that
interesting.
I used to uh, that I used to last for 2 months, and now it lasts over 6 months, eight
Oh wow,
months. So it's definitely reducing over the time.
that's pretty good. And so you said that's your grandfather or your father, where
Both
it stopped. Oh, both.
grandfather had it. My even my uncle had it, and uh, some of my cousins have it.
Okay.
So it's genetic.
But I mean, where it went away, like you said, with your grandfather went away when he was 30, or that was your father, or both.
That was my father. I
Okay.
don't know exactly about my grandfather because I was pretty young when he passed away.
Oh, okay. All right. Um, be interesting to find out. Maybe that's. I wonder if your father would know.
My father passed away
Oh,
uh,
really?
9 years back.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So that's interesting that it just so it looks like just stopped. Like, and he never got another attack again after 30.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I remember when I was a kid, he used to use the inhaler that I currently use.
Okay.
So yeah, and in later stages, I never saw him using that.
Huh. Interesting. That's very interesting. Wonder how that happens. Like you would think that it would get as you get older, it would get worse.
Yeah, I understand. Normally, people would think like that, but somehow, in fact, I read a study that the reason of asthma is not yet completely understood. So we don't know. Some people think it is happening because of some fungi. Some people think it is happening because of some hormones that is released by renal glands, and some people feel it's due to allergies. So we don't really know what is causing asthma in the first place.
That's interesting. Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, if it's based on some sort of um, like hormone or like the production of a particular hormone or production or overproduction of a hormone, something like that. Of course, as you get older, your hormones change, so that would make
Hmm.
sense for why you may not see the asthma spring up maybe as much or go away completely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, that I can understand. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, because like
In
every
fact, lot of allergies, sometimes they onset on their own and they go away on their own, like nut allergies, soya allergies.
hmm,
You never know when a person could acquire that, because you could be completely fine eating nuts for 30 years and suddenly you get a nut allergy.
oh man, yeah, nut allergies are dangerous too.
Yeah, I've heard that you can't even breathe the air around the nuts. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's freaky. Imagine like you've been eating nuts. Like I eat nuts
Hmm.
every day, no problem. I love nuts. And all of a sudden, just one day I have them and I get like an allergic reaction. That'd be
Then
freaky.
you have few hours to get the, what is that, epinephrine shot.
Yeah, I got to go to the hospital immediately.
Hmm.
And this is the problem with me too. Is I know myself. I'm the type of person to go like, that'll be fine. It'll go away.
This thing happened to me around 6 years back. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I got soya allergy. That's very surprising because soya bean is something I love to eat. I used to eat it often, and I still eat it as a protein source. And suddenly, one night, I got an allergy from that. And it was a very strange kind of reaction. I'd never experienced that. My whole body turned red and puffy. My
Wow,
whole face changed. I looked like a completely different person.
wow, that's crazy.
And it took around. around 1 or 2 hours. But when I saw myself in the mirror, I knew that this is some kind of allergic reaction. I have to go immediately and get a shot. So yeah, I did that. And now,
Wild.
whenever I eat soybean, I'm cautious about this allergic reaction. If there is some rashes or itches starting, I make it a point to take an anti-allergy pill. It could be a pill or what do you use for allergies? Is there
Um,
a pill that you usually use?
uh, well, it depends. So there are, of course, you can get antihistamines, but those are like the
Yeah, antihistamine.
antihistamines. So a lot of the antihistamines are is typically like that I take. Like all, the only ones I take are related to seasonal allergies. It's like
Mhm.
pollen or ragweed or these types of things. So I know there's Benadryl. Benadryl is I think is the common one that people take for allergic reactions. But it's like a liquid form. I don't know if they probably have a pill form too. I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's it. So, but how do you know for sure was soybeans? Like how you know? Like maybe it was
because
something else.
no, because it happened a few times again. So whenever it
Oh,
happened,
okay.
the next time, I made sure that I take a pill
Hmm.
whenever I get start to get the itch. And interestingly, I looked it up on ChatGPT, and GPT said that it is quite possible if you eat soybean undercooked, because the protein structure completely changes when it is undercooked and overcooked or properly cooked.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, but that's like normal with a lot of foods. The protein structure changes when it's cooked, when it's heated.
Yes, yeah. So that is the time when I realized that okay, from now on I have to be very careful that if I'm eating soybean, I have to boil it properly.
Right.
Earlier, I used to just microwave it for 2 minutes, and I used to think it is cooked. But now
Ah, okay.
I cook it properly for 5-10 minutes, and only then I eat it.
Okay. So it's like the first time this happened, is that the only thing you were eating, or you're having like a meal, there was soybeans in it, you got the allergic reaction. It was like, what was it? Like,
Yeah, I even had soy protein powder, so I could
oh, okay.
feel the reaction in that as well. So from that point on, I never reordered soy protein powder.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that puffy reaction, that was the only time I just I was lucky enough to know why it was what it was causing, what was causing it. Sorry.
I wonder what, like, in terms of the immune system, those types of reactions, is it just like, is it the body's actually, in a way, like, kind of attacking itself? Or,
Mm,
like, what is that reaction that you're getting? Like, why is it that your face gets puffy? Is it something within the proteins or the thing that you're eating that the way it interacts with your immune system? Or is it like an overreaction of what your immune system typically does?
yeah, I think I read the answer, but I don't remember. So we'll have to look it up.
Yeah, let's look it up. Let's
Yeah,
ChatGPT this. Maybe it also depends. Maybe it depends on what type of allergic reaction it is. What is, I don't know if this is the right way to form this question, but we'll try it to start with. What is an allergic reaction? Maybe I'll, two L's, my bad. What is allergic reaction? Is it um, a sign that your immune system is immune, immune, immune. Oh, not immune, immune, immune system is attacking attacking your um, your body. I don't know,
tissues.
or tissues. Yeah, let's do tissues. All right, let's see what it says. That should be good enough. ChatGPT is intuitive enough to understand what I'm getting at. At least it's proved itself to be so far. Okay. An allergic reaction is the body's immune response to a substance. that is mistakenly identified as harmful. Allergic reactions can occur in response to a wide range of substances, including foods, medications, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When an allergen enters the body, the immune system produces antibodies called immunoglobulin E,
Mm.
or IgE antibodies, which bind to the allergen. Okay. This triggers the release of chemicals such as histamine from immune cells called mast cells and basophils. Basophils or basophils? Basophils, maybe I'll say. The release of histamine and other inflammatory chemicals leads to the symptoms of an allergic reaction, which can vary depending on the type and severity of the allergy. Common symptoms of an allergic reaction include, and all the different things that happen when you get an allergic reaction. An allergic reaction is not a sign that the immune system is attacking the body's own tissues. Instead, it is an overreaction of the immune system to a harmful substance. In people with allergies, the immune system mistakenly identifies certain substances as threats and mounts an immune response to eliminate them from the body. In some cases, allergic reactions can become chronic and lead to conditions such as allergic rhinitis, which is hay fever. I do get hay fever sometimes. Asthma or eczema. Allergies can also vary in severity, with some people experiencing mild symptoms and others experiencing more severe or life-threatening reactions, and then it goes into treatments. Okay, so it's just an overreaction of the immune system and its release of particular chemicals to try to attack the substance in the body that it deems to be a threat, even though it might not actually be. And it just sort of spins maybe out of control a little bit. Interesting. I wanted to look up also, like, what are the symptoms of hay fever? What are symptoms?
Chills, runny nose, sore throat.
I think it's also, I wonder if it's like hallucinating. Because I don't get it anymore so much, but I used to hallucinate. Get like
While
some,
sleeping?
no, be fully awake. But yeah, it doesn't say anything to do with hallucinating. But at least when I was younger, and still once in a while when I'm older, I get this weird thing where, like, sometimes the hallucinations can be a little bit different. Sometimes it's like I seem really small, but my body seems really big. So like I'll see myself, I'm like, I seem really a lot bigger than I should. It's just sort of like my perspective on things change. Or I seem really big, but in my rooms, in the environment, like the room I'm in is very small. Or sometimes it seems as if like things are kind of caving in. Like even though I'm like nothing's really moving, it's like this perception is if things are like caving in on me. It's very strange. It's very hard to explain.
That reminds me of a Pink Floyd song. It has this exact lyrics.
Really?
Comfortably numb.
Oh, comfortably numb. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My hands felt just like two balloons.
Right, right,
When I was a child, I had a fever. I cannot put my finger on it now. The
yeah,
child has grown.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that song.
Mm.
Yeah, and that song is, of course, about. I think it's about like being, like having done some heroin or something like that, or it's like being on some drug or whatever. Um, but yeah, I used to get this, and once in a while I'll still get that, but I don't know what that's due to. I don't know if that's like what kind of response that is.
And it also had something about having red spot in the eye. Did you ever get that?
I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so. Um, but we could also look that up. I wonder if there's anything that comes up regarding hallucinating. Do people ever experience Hallucinations. Hallucinations. Oh, I'm spelling so horribly today. How do you spell hallucinations? Oh, okay, it's just two L's. Experience hallucinations um, due to an allergic reaction. I bet they do.
Fleeting glimpse. Yeah, the lyrics was, I had a fleeting glimpse right at the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. Fleeting glimpse. What is fleeting glimpse?
A fleeting glimpse. Like fleeting is something that is there but then quickly gone at the same time. You know? It's there but then gone. Yeah, it's just
Right
there
at the
for a
corner
very
of my.
moment. Yeah, and it's like if it's at the corner of your eye, it would be kind of here, and then by the time you look at it, it's gone.
So lateral vision.
Yeah, peripheral. Yeah,
Yeah, peripheral.
yeah, yeah. Um, okay, so hallucinations as a direct result of allergic reactions are rare but not impossible. Allergic reactions primarily involve the release of histamine and other. Okay, then it just goes back to what an allergic reaction is. Um, However, severe allergic reactions known as anaphylaxis can lead to a sudden and dramatic release of chemicals throughout the body, including in the brain. Anaphylaxis can result in a drop in blood pressure. Blah blah blah. So yeah, but I never had like an anaphylaxis scenario. That is pretty severe.
Yeah, that puts pressure on your brain, right?
I don't know if it says it puts pressure on your brain. Um, It just says it can lead to a sudden and dramatic release of chemicals throughout the body, including in the brain. Anaphylaxis can result in a drop in blood pressure and reduce blood flow to the brain, which can lead to confusion, dizziness, and even loss of consciousness.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That was encephalitis.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never had an anaphylaxis reaction. Yeah, so maybe the hallucinations are not allergy related, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's from. It's just like a once in a while thing. It's like my perception of my environment, how I'm experiencing it, is somewhat altered, and I'm not under the influence of anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, as the answer said, it's related to histamine.
Mm. So no, if so it doesn't. It says that to experience a hallucinations due to an allergic reaction would be in like severe cases of an allergic reaction. Otherwise, it doesn't seem to be much correlation between the two. Yeah.
I see.
So my hallucinations that I'd get would be due to, I guess, something else. Maybe it's like vertigo or something like that. I don't know if it is though, because vertigo has to do with like balance, I think. Do people that experience vertigo also get hallucinations? Let's see. Something went wrong. Regenerate. Maybe I have to. Oh, here we go. Vertigo and hallucinations are separate symptoms that can occur independently of each other, but they may sometimes occur together in certain medical conditions. Vertigo is a sensation of spinning or dizziness that can make you feel like you or your surroundings are moving or spinning when they are not. Yeah, so I've never really had that. Yeah, so not doesn't seem to be all that connected. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is, but whatever. Maybe I should look up like what are some circumstances in which somebody would experience hallucinations.
Yeah, possible disease in a child having hallucination during hay fever.
Maybe, or maybe, yeah, because it says again like doesn't seem to be a correlation between a hay fever or allergic reaction and hallucinations. They seem to be separate, unless you are going through some sort of anaphylaxis reaction. So, which I haven't. So, um, what are some causes of experiencing hallucinations? Why I keep spelling halluc? Oh, mixed up the C and the N. That are not due to any taking of substances. Let's see. We're learning things today, as always. All right. Okay. So here's one. Here it says there's a variety of potential factors. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. No, that's different. Okay. So it could be due to psychiatric disorders. Oh, maybe I have a psychiatric disorder, like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, psychotic depression. Oh, goodness, that's pretty bad. Brief psychotic disorder. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I don't think I have any of that stuff. The next possibility are neurological disorders. So epilepsy, don't have that. Migraines, don't really have that. Brain tumors, definitely don't have that. Neurodegenerative disorders, don't think it's that. Sleep disorder, possibly. Sleep paralysis. This condition can cause hallucinations when falling asleep or waking up, often accompanied by a feeling of being unable to move. Don't really experience that so much. Hypnagogic jogic or hypnopompic hallucinations. These hallucinations occur during the transition between wakefulness and sleep and can involve various sensory, not so much medical conditions. Fever, but I've experienced it without a fever. Dehydration, maybe. Severe dehydration can lead to, I don't really experience severe dehydration. Sensory deprivation, prolonged isolation, or sensory deprivation can sometimes trigger hallucinations. Stress, trauma, and grief. Extreme stress, trauma, or grief. But sometimes I get it and I'm not under any sort of stress, haven't experienced any sort of trauma or like, I mean, I've experienced like stress and some, micro traumas, I guess you could say, as we all experience throughout life. But yeah, those don't seem to be related. So I don't know. Very interesting. I don't know what would be due to.
No, that reminds me of the song. Never Google your symptoms.
That's true. Well, yeah, and don't chat GPT them either. Yeah, because it's going to give you a whole bunch of things that you have no idea if it's the right thing or not, right? So yeah, but none of those seem to be things that make me go like, yeah, that seems like it could be it. I don't think so. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's just sort of like a weird thing about how my brain works every once in a while. But I used to get a lot more when I was younger. Now I'd maybe get it like, I don't know, once every 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay.
That might happen. But then when it does, I'm like, oh, it's happening. That's kind of cool. When I was a kid, it was freaky, of course. That freaked me out. But now it's just like, yeah, it'll pass. It's fine. And it's not like extreme. It's nothing extreme. It's just a little bit like kind of strange.
Right. I think we all have experienced that kind of hallucination in childhood where we feel that everything else has grown up. So maybe it was just a common experience. Maybe it wasn't some medical condition.
Yeah, maybe. What, you remember having different hallucinations?
I don't remember actually. Hard to recollect. But I do remember that airplane seats, they used to seem much bigger.
Well, sure. Yeah, did you ever do that sometimes where you like you'll walk, like you're walking somewhere and you're like looking around, you're like, I can tell that I'm much bigger than I used to be when I was just a kid. Like I can tell,
Yeah.
like I look sometimes at the look at the ground. I'm like, it's really much further away the ground than it was than I remember it being when I was a kid.
Yeah, that happened to me when I went to see my childhood home. And of course, I remembered it to be much longer, much wider.
Mm.
And when I saw it again, I was like, this is it.
Yeah,
This is where I used to live.
yeah. It's weird, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird, but it's kind of fun to do that. I like to go. Do you ever like? How many different homes have you lived in since you were a kid?
3, 4, maybe.
3 or 4. For me, so first home was on a street called Dunkhill Way. I remember that. It's pretty. It's like a little community. There was like a community pool. So like townhomes. Um, the next home was on a street called Stephen Street. The next one was at um, Kilberry Court. Then it was. Um, and from there we went to Misty Sugar Trail.
Lots
Then
of sweets.
yeah. Then Daniel Bram Drive. Then from there I moved to North Park. And then yeah. And now where I'm at now. So seven different places I've lived in. So once in a while
Hmm.
I like to like just drive from one home to the next. And just sort of and like sometimes what I'll do is I'll just like park and I'll walk around the neighborhood that I used to, you know, ride my bike in or walk around in or play around in and just try to remember what it was
Get the
like.
nostalgia.
Yeah. That's kind of cool to do. Or like I'll walk, or like, especially I used to walk every day from my house to my high school and back every day for school for, all of high school. So from grade 9 through to, well, we used to have something called OAC, which was um, Ontario Academic Credit, which is essentially like grade 13. That was before you went to university,
Gotcha.
but they got rid of that grade completely. So people now students go to school after grade 12. But anyways, so from 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. So um, how many is that? That's 4, 5 years, right? Um, no, more than that. 5 4 5 years, yeah. Right? Because grade 9, 10, 11, 12, OAC, yeah.
13.
Yeah, 13. So, um, yeah, so sometimes I'll like to walk from that house to the high school and then back, or I'll like walk around the high school just to kind of remember what it was like to be there. But yeah, even now, like it looks smaller than I remember it. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to do that.
And interestingly, whenever I pass my school, where I did my 10th grade, I completely ignored it. I completely I'm looking at the road. I'm not looking at the school gate or the back gate.
Hmm.
For some reason, I have stopped looking at it. Like, I haven't been on that road for, I guess, few years now. But whenever I'm passing through that road, I'm not even looking at it
Yeah.
for some reason.
Hmm. But you used to.
I used to, yeah. Whenever I used to pass through that road, I would take an extra left turn just to see
Huh.
my school. But now I don't do that.
Huh. Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe it's just not as important. But now that you mentioned it, now you might do it again. Now that you're more conscious
Let's
of
see,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Yeah.
There's there's a lot of places that have opened up around the school. A lot of cool places. Uh, I've been there like hundreds of times. Uh, in not not in last 2 years, but before that. But I don't remember looking at my school gate or entrance the way I used to.
Hmm. Has the landscape, um, has the, like, has the, have things developed a lot more around the area around the areas that you used to live in? Let's say, like, where your school is.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
a lot of new places have been opening, still opening,
mm,
and there was only just one cafe,
mm,
if I remember correctly. Yeah, there was this one food joint, not even a cafe. It was a food joint, small,
mm.
where you can just get your go-to food. I think, yeah, I can remember only that one food joint, and now there are plenty of them.
What's one thing that you're like? You remember going to school, of course, and then coming out of your school and kind of seeing what things look like when exiting the doors of your school, for example. Do things look exactly the same? Is that view is that view exactly the same as it was when you were a
No,
kid? Yeah. You can like
no,
physically see that the buildings are different. There's more of them, or they're taller, or
yeah, yeah, exactly. Everything has changed.
yeah. It's the same with me. So when I used to walk up to my high school, so there's like a set of trees on either side. There's a sidewalk, and then the road that people drive up and down. It's not very wide. It's wide enough for one's like for one car to get up the road, small sidewalk for people to walk up and down, and then just trees on either side. Um, and then you walk up that for, I don't know, like about 150, 200 paces, and then it kind of opens up into this wide area where the school is. And then on the right side, like, so you walk up to the school, you see it, and on the right side is like a big sort of, well, there's a parking lot, and then beyond the parking lot, it kind of dips down into like a big field where you could play soccer or just run around or whatever. And then beyond that, like, because it dips down, you can see there's a main street here that's called Yonge Street. I think it's like one of the longest streets in the world, Yonge Street. It goes like all the way downtown Toronto and like really far up north. Anyways, um, so you can see Yonge Street, and before you, I mean, you don't really see the street, but you know it's there. And when I was a kid, you just kind of knew it was in that direction. But you couldn't really see, like, everything else you would see beyond that would just be like basically trees, even though there's houses, but all the houses are kind of masked by all the trees. But now, when you look at that view, there's so many buildings, like these huge buildings, like residential condominiums and apartments, and that have all come up. So that view is like a skyline. Like, you just see the skyline is just filled with these buildings. It just looks like a city. It's very weird to see that now
Mhm.
because it just used to
Mhm.
look very suburban. It was a very suburban view, and now it's like a very city type of view. So for me, that's very strange to see that. Like, how much
Yeah,
is
I can
developed
relate.
here? Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be this place around 10 kilometers from my home. I used to go there for riding my bike and spend time, feel the breeze, because it was a very quiet area and it was a long straight road. It was fun to ride your bike there.
Hmm.
But suddenly, in few years, everything changed. The
Hmm.
buildings are new and big. The road that used to be straight has now diversions,
Hmm.
and yeah, the place where we used to sit and which was windy turned into a bus stop.
Hmm.
So yeah, so now I don't feel like going there because going there makes me feel strange. I kind of miss those times when it was quite open and quiet.
Are there areas that you live in or that you've seen now that used to just be like There was just like nothing there. It was just open field or just trees and there's
Mm.
just, it was just nothing. And now it's like completely built up.
Yeah, plenty of areas because I live in a place which is constantly developing. Even if there are older buildings, they are tearing them down and building some newer towers over it. So there is constant development happening around me, and that is quite overwhelming actually
Yeah.
to see so many things changing. And to be very honest, I don't get it. I really don't get the need for doing that. For people to relocate to remote and such desolate places, isolate themselves. I just don't get it because there's not really any public transportation that is going to take you there. So even if you relocate there, you are not really going to feel comfortable traveling to and fro. Just don't understand how can people
I think it's a need thing.
just because just because they are others are doing it, are they copying them?
I think it's a. I think it's a. I think you might not have necessarily is the choice because, like, as a population grows within a place that people want to be or a place that's ideal to be in, if that place is really ideal, everybody wants to live there. Of course, the cost to be able to live there goes up because supply and
Hmm.
demand, right? So as the price gets to a certain level, there's a group of people that want to live there, but they can't because they just can't afford it. So then you have to look at other options. And you start having to look further and further and further out from the main place that you want to live in.
Yeah, but here's the thing that doesn't make sense economically because when you are living much further, you are spending a lot more on transport.
Yeah, but I guess it
You,
depends on the
you still have to
costs.
you still have to come back to the city every day.
Yeah, I think it depends on costs. I'll give you an example. And also that I also imagine it depends on if you're going to find employment in the city, if you're going to sort of be in the mindset where it's like, well, I'm so far out now from the city, like maybe I won't even bother working in the city anymore. I'll work somewhere else. I'll work
Okay,
somewhere that's
if
closer to the other place that I now have to live because I can't afford to live in the city.
yeah, let's say not in the city, but still you have to get to the bus stop, you still have to get to the train station, and those are still not easily reachable. So that makes me wonder a lot.
Maybe
And
they
even if you
just,
have to go for shopping, you have to travel much more.
yeah, but I would imagine the costs are going to be less, right? Because at least here, for example, here, if you want to live in a house, bare minimum, the bare minimum in this area, if you want to find a house, you have to spend $1 million. You don't have a choice. You're not going to find anything. Like I'm talking about like even like there's no homes in this area that are the types of homes where they're not where the standard of living is so low that it's not going to cost $1 million. Like I'm talking about like bare minimum here. You're like because the standard of living in this area is pretty good. Um, like the bare minimum standard of living is in this area is going to cost you about $1 million if you're going to buy a house. You're just not going to find anything for less than that. So if you don't have that money, right? Let's say you have only $500,000. You have half of that to spend. We're going to have to go like really far away. So yeah, you're going to then decide that to not come into the city very often, not nearly as often as you might want or you might normally if you lived in the city. You're just not going to do it. And you're going to find work somewhere else. And yeah, you might have to get your groceries somewhere different. It's going to be closer to where you're going to live. And yeah, it might require much more travel. But still, like overall, what you'd be spending, your expenses would be far less
Mm.
because you're spending that much less on the cost of like the like that is the biggest. I'm not sure about there, but at least here, like the biggest cost to living is your mortgage or your rent. Like, again, I'll give you an example. I bought a condo in 2010. My mortgage at the time, okay, I had to put, like, the cost of the condo was $239,000 for that condo. I only had to put $10,000 down to get the condo. My mortgage payments were $1,200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was just an example. Now, in relation, 2024, bought this condo. Okay, this condo is a little bit bigger than the other condo, but not by much. Not by much. Like that condo is 650 square feet. This condo is 800. So it's bigger, but not by a ton. Okay. In terms of area, okay, maybe you could argue this area is maybe a bit more preferred, but not by much. Not by much. And I'm living about a 10-15 minute drive maximum from my other condo. So it's not like a completely different area. It's somewhat different, but not that much different. Okay. So 2024, bought this condo, $700,000. The down payment, I didn't have a choice. It had to be over $120,000. And the mortgage payments are $3,100 a month. It's changed dramatically. Dramatically, the cost of living here. It's like tripled.
Triple, yeah.
In just 14 years. It's insane. It's insane. Like, in order just to get by, like, so in 2010, I had a salary. I was working as a restaurant manager. My salary was $32,000 a year. And that was fine. It was plenty. Take care of my mortgage, food, all my expenses, a little bit left over. I was good. No issues. Now, in order just to get by to around
40.
the same level,
More than 40, 50, sorry.
I need to be making $100,000 a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Because 36, okay, 40, right. 40 would go in mortgage.
Well, it's $3,100 a month for the mortgage. So multiply that by 12, right? The condo fees here are $600 a month.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Then there's insurance. All my insurance with my car and everything. So that's about $300 a month. Maybe about $300 a month. Then there's my internet bill and my phone bill. That's about $150 a month. Then there's food. So food is about $500 a month. Okay. What am I missing? It works out to be about $5,000 a month with all my basic expenses. And the taxes are high here. You have to also factor in taxes. So you make $100,000 a year, you're only keeping about $70,000 of that.
Right.
So if I'm paying $5,000 a month for basic expenses, that's $60,000 a year. Right? $60,000 a year gone. Just to take care of my basic expenses. That leaves me with $10,000 a year. Just to do a few things here and there. That's not that much money. If I need to if I need to just buy something that because you also have to factor all these expenses that come up. Like I have to get an oil change for my car. Oil changes for my car, like $300. Okay, that's every 6 months. But still, it adds up. Or I have to get new tires for my car. Or something goes wrong with my car and I've got all of a sudden a couple $1,000s it cost to fix my car. Or all of a sudden, I don't know, my computer. Something happens with my computer. That's how to shut off something. So I have to like, I don't know, I have to get a new computer. So like all these expenses that come out of nowhere. Like the cost of it adds up very quick. So $10,000 to spread over an entire year for like to include expenses for things that you didn't plan for, and then also to have maybe a little bit left over just to be able to save a bit if you want to go away on a vacation, or you want to go for a bite to eat somewhere, or you want to hang out with your friends and do something a little bit different, or you see something cool and you're just like, oh, it'd be nice to kind of buy that thing for like $100, $200. Like that $10,000 has to be spread over the course of the whole year for all that other stuff. So that's what I'm saying. You need to be making bare minimum $100,000 a year now, just to get by. Just to get by, and you're okay. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Cost of living here is insane. Insane.
Yeah, I never imagined that. I thought 100,000 over there is average, right? Not average, but just above average.
So the average person throughout what's called the GTA, which is the general Toronto area, and that's a huge area. I think the average person, individual, needs to be making about maybe $70,000 to $80,000 a year, but that's including a lot of areas where you're like pretty far away from the city. It's a very wide area, the GTA. So yeah, like I'm not in one of the further out areas. Like I'm not in the city center, but I'm not too far away from it either. Like I'm on the main subway line that goes all the way downtown to Toronto. Yeah. I'm I'm in a pretty good area. So I have to be making more money than that. Yeah. So it's crazy. Like $100,000. When I was a kid, you make $100,000 a year. Like you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. Like you're not doing amazing, but you're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, I remember $100,000 used to be like the benchmark when my friends started going to US, and they had this figure in their mind that we just have to get there, because at that time this figure was something that was like you have made it
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. If you achieve that, you're doing good. Now, keep in mind, in the US, it is different still. Like you make $100,000 in the US, you're still doing like pretty darn good.
All right, because the currency is stronger there.
Currency is stronger there, yeah, and the cost of living is way lower. And also, there's a lot more choice in terms of places that you can live that are like nicely populated, that are relatively safe, and that are enjoyable to live in. Here, there's not that many cities to do that with. There's only really two big
I
cities,
see.
maybe three big cities here: Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal.
Oh,
You have to remember that, right? So Canada's a huge country in terms of area and land mass, but there's only like three big cities. Maybe you could argue
so
like
most of it
Calgary
is
yeah.
so most of it is it inhabitable or inhabited?
It's habitable for sure, but it's not comfortably habitable. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. You could argue there's four big cities because Calgary is starting to get a lot bigger, but still not nearly as big as Toronto or Vancouver. You could argue that there's really only two big cities. But in the States, in the United States, like every state has at least one big city in it, if not two or
True.
three. So you're talking now like at least 100 big cities in the United States. So you have a lot of options. Now, granted, they have a bigger population, but you still have many more options in terms of like if this state is becoming too costly to live in, you have somewhere else in the United States. So you have many, many, many choices in the United States in terms of where you want to live. If you still want to live in a nice big city. But in Canada, it's not like that. If you don't like Toronto, you got maybe one other choice for a city, and it's on the entire other side of the country. A lot
Mm,
of times, like if you don't like one big city in the United States, you might not even have to change states. You could just move to
yeah,
the other big city in the same state.
yeah, like Mumbai and Pune. They're called sister cities. If you feel tired of Mumbai, you can easily shift to Pune. It's only few hours away.
There you go. So here, it's not so much like that because even if I wanted to go, let's say, like Montreal would be the next closest, but Montreal is vastly different in terms of the demographic. And also, like, they're very, there's a big push. There's always been a huge push, but it's gotten more and more for French speaking people in Montreal.
Okay, yeah, French Canadians.
So if you don't speak French, a lot of them will, like, they look down on you. They're not so
Mm,
nice to you. And also, you go there, and a lot of places they won't even speak English. They just refuse to. It's very different. So even if you wanted to move to the next closest big city, which would be Montreal, even though Montreal is not nearly as big as Toronto, that's not really much of an option if you don't speak French. And most people in Toronto don't speak French. The like very small percentage of the population speaks French in Toronto. Most people actually move out of Montreal to go to Toronto because they don't want to speak French. That's why my parents came here from Montreal to move to Toronto because that was one of the main reasons.
mm.
So again, it's like
Let's
it's
do this last exercise.
sure.
How about we ask Chat GPT? We would put the characteristics of an ideal city that we want to live in, and it could be in any country. And
Okay.
let's see what it throws at us.
I've done this before. I have a good
Uh,
sense as to what it will suggest for me because it's done those suggestions before. But let's start with you. Let's start with you. You tell
sure.
me. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanna live in a city which is moderately populated. It doesn't have to be too much crowded and neither sparsely. Then
So I'm just
there has to be
writing. Um,
moderately populated.
so I'm just writing. What would be the ideal city for me to live in, considering the following factors?
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah, for ideal city anywhere in the world. So, what would be the ideal city, any in the world, for me to live in, considering the following factors? Um, it is moderately populated. Like, what would be moderately populated is like kind of a relative term. So, what is like, what type of population? How many people?
That's hard to say because in for India, moderately populated is much different than what it means in Canada.
Exactly.
So we'll just call it moderately populated. Let's see what it figures out.
Well, I mean, but if you're saying moderately populated, like, are you saying that in terms of like the India perspective? Then how many
Or
people
maybe
would
we
that
can
be?
say moderate population density. Maybe we can say that moderate population density.
Right, but again, are we describing that in terms of the perception you have from India or the perception that I might have? Because in Canada, if I was to say a moderately populated city, I'd be talking about maybe um, mm, how many people are in Toronto? I think it's like 1.5 million. How many people live in? Well, I'll just say the GTA. Oh, okay. I was way off. 6 million. So that's a fairly densely populated city in Canada. Um, so moderately popular might be 2 to 3 million, let's say. So does that sound like
Okay.
a right around the correct amount?
Actually, yeah, let's go with that because the city that I live in currently is already around at 2 million, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
And it's overly populated because it's a very small city. So that is why I was going for the population
Because it
density
also
metric.
right. That makes sense. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'm following you on that. Yeah, because it depends
Mm.
on like how big the area
area.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So okay, fine. So I agree with you. Let's go with that. So for me, living considering the following factors, it is it has a moderate population density. Okay, another factor.
Moderate weather, not too cold, not too hot.
Okay.
Then it needs to have connectivity, transportation, and connectivity.
Good transportation and connectivity to the main city center and somewhat on the outer skirts of the city.
Doesn't have to be, but yeah, let's see what it says.
Okay.
And it needs to have a wide range of demographics. So it doesn't just have to have some cities like there are only people who go to retire, right? So we don't want that.
Okay.
So we want a wide range of demographics. So I think these would cover up, and
Anything else?
should also have some MNCs so
Uh,
that
uh,
there are some
amenities?
MNC, multinational companies,
Oh, okay. Should
so that
have some M and C's. Okay.
yeah, because that would give a direct impact on the development.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
so
the
I guess
economy and all that. Yeah.
these are the factors
That are
that
important to
come to
you.
mind.
What about like healthcare and safety?
I feel India is equally safe all over, and health wise, we don't really go into the health insurance here
Hmm.
unless it is compulsory
Okay,
or
but
mandatory.
you're talking about any city in the world, not just India, right? So if we're picking any city in the world, you want there to be a certain level of healthcare and a certain level of safety as well, right?
So I believe if some MNCs exist there, then they would be taking care of the healthcare. I'm
Right.
guessing that.
Right. Okay. So you think this covers all the important aspects of what you're looking for in terms of a city to live in? Hmm?
Mm.
Yeah? Okay. So here we go. Enter.
So
Huh.
my new
Interesting.
relocation city.
Interesting. So here are your top picks. So you've got Australia, Sydney, Australia.
Oh,
Second is Toronto in Canada.
hmm
Uh, Munich in Germany. And Singapore.
okay. So if I, these are the four options. So Singapore, I think it's a tourist city.
Singapore is a city known for its moderate population density and excellent transportation infrastructure. The weather is warm and humid year round. The city has an extensive public transportation system. Blah, blah, blah. Singapore is one of the most diverse cities in the world with a mix of ethnicities and cultures. It is also a major financial and business hub in Asia, with many multinational corporations having a presence in the city. Is Singapore. Singapore more of a tourist destination than a city to live in. Put that as city to live in, but it won't understand. While Singapore is indeed a population tourist destination known for its attractions, shopping, and culinary scene, it is also a thriving city with a high standard of living and a diverse population. Many people choose to live in Singapore due to its excellent infrastructure, safety, cleanliness, and economic opportunities. Um, but it's expensive. Like all these cities to live in are fairly expensive.
Hmm. So Singapore is the fourth. What was the third?
Munich in Germany.
Scratch that because I'm not keen on learning German language.
A lot of people speak English there too.
Yeah, but I've heard if you are willing to relocate to Germany, the German language is mandatory.
Okay. The second one is
And then the
here in
second
Toronto,
was,
in Canada.
yeah, I can think about that, but is it really moderate weather?
I mean, it can be extreme at times. It can be extremely hot and then extremely cold, and everywhere in between. But I think on average, if you average all that out, it would seem to be quite moderate. Like this time of year, it's fairly moderate. Right now, outside, I mean, it's chilly. It's 14 degrees Celsius, but give it like another month and it will be like in the 20s. So it's moderate.
And are you having any radiators running?
Oh, heaters?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a heater in the winter. Sure. Yeah, you'll need a heater in the winter. For sure.
Okay, so I'll think about Toronto because I really want to stay away from cold places.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And on the other hand, Sydney. Sydney is quite hot, I believe.
The weather is generally
It's
mild with warm summers and mild winters.
hmm, so that sounds okay. So Sydney and Singapore.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, I'll give it a thought. I have never thought about relocating anywhere.
Yeah. I think about it. So here are my important requirements for a good city. So provide some suggestions for me to relocate to a place with the following criteria. Um, Cost of living is low. Standard of living is high. It high level of safety, high quality healthcare, and good infrastructure. I don't care about population density so much. High quality healthcare and good infrastructure for transportation, businesses to thrive, and what would be another good sign of good infrastructure?
Development.
And ability to develop. Ability for further development. Okay. Oh, and I guess I'll put this high quality healthcare. I'll put at least one of the main languages spoken is English. And good infrastructure for transportation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see what it says. I think that's good. Those are my criteria. Here we go. Let's see if it gives the same suggestions. I put in some different things in there.
I'm guessing one of them would be Bangkok for you. I'm guessing.
Okay. So this is a little bit different than what I've seen before. So one would be Wellington in New Zealand.
The capital of New Zealand.
Another one would be Brisbane in Australia.
Mm, interesting.
Another one would be, this is interesting, Halifax in Canada. So that's in Nova Scotia, which is on the east side of Canada, which is like, yeah, anyways. And the other one would be Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Mm.
Interesting.
So which one fascinates you most?
Don't know. I've heard good things about New Zealand. Um, yeah, Australia might be interesting. Halifax. I've heard good things about Halifax. I've known some people that moved out there for a little while, but then they moved back. But they really enjoyed it there. It's a very, um, very like slow way of life.
Mm, interesting.
It's very like relaxed and there's not like a lot of hustle and bustle. It's very there's not a lot of it's the population is fairly low. Let's ask this: what is the population of each of these cities? So Wellington, 420,000 people. Brisbane, 2.5 million. Halifax would be 430,000. And Kuala Lumpur would be 1.8 million. So, yeah, smaller populations for sure in Wellington, Halifax, which, yeah, would keep things pretty quaint. But still, like 420, 430,000 people, like that's still a good amount of people. It's not a, like, it's not a small population. I mean, we know we consider that in relative terms. It's small compared to like huge cities, but we're talking about millions. But it's still like plenty of people.
Sure. So New Zealand sounds like a good option for you.
Yeah, maybe New Zealand, even Halifax. I mean, Halifax would be the easiest move because
Distance
it's
wise.
yeah, distance wise, still in Canada, easy to get there. I don't need to like really like figure things out too much
Mm,
in terms of like integrating myself into a culture or a way of doing things. Um, that's an interesting option. It'd be a much like quicker adjustment.
definitely.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. Halifax. I'll show you. Let's see if we can do like
So
a
maybe
yeah.
so maybe your previous company has a branch over there.
No, I don't think that they would. No, no, it's not big enough. Not big enough. But I'm sure I would find work there. Um, but yeah, let's see if I can look up. Let's see. Let's go to Google Maps. Wonder what happens if I share the screen right now with you. Let's do it. Let's see what that's like. Share screen, Google Maps, start sharing. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the screen. Okay, so you can see the screen. I should do this more often. But it doesn't change the way things look with how this is recorded. So we should do this more often when I'm showing stuff for you. So, okay. So this is the area that I'm in, of course. So we're going to zoom out. This is Toronto. This is the area that I'm in over here. And then we're going to zoom out a bunch more. This is Toronto. You're starting to see parts of the United States over here.
Mhm.
Okay, this is all the United States. Like past these lakes, the Great Lakes. Like these Great Lakes basically all separate Canada and the United States, except for this one. This one's only in the United States. But this lake here, you can actually see the border here in black.
Yeah, so there is that separation line we can see clearly.
Yeah. So here's Toronto, here's Montreal over there. Okay.
Mm.
So it takes about 4 to 5 hours to get from this spot to that spot.
Well, so Montreal is just outside US.
Just outside the
So you
U.S.
can,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so basically you can catch a bus and go into US.
yeah. It's pretty quick to get from one place to the other. To get from Toronto to Buffalo, which is the city here in the U.S., this takes about an hour and a half to get from Toronto because you have to go
Wow,
around
that's
this way.
oh, that's very close.
Yeah, it's not too far. If you take the ferry across, it's probably a lot faster, right? Um, but maybe not. I'm not sure actually. But in any case, so to give you a little bit of idea of distance from here, Toronto to Montreal is about 4 hours. Okay, 4 to 5 hours. Now let's zoom out a bunch more. So here we go. Here is Nova Scotia, right here. This is where Halifax is.
All right. So
So
almost you are touching Russia.
no, because no, because you got to remember, like, so I'll zoom out more. So this is all of Canada now up here. Now you can see all Canada. Russia is on the other side. Russia's over
Okay, okay.
here because if I zoom out more,
But
see,
isn't it
this is
that
Alaska
Russia?
and this is Russia over here.
Gotcha.
It's all over there. So here again, from this gives you an idea of scale. From Toronto to Montreal, that's 5 hour drive. So now imagine going
Hmm.
from Toronto all the way to Vancouver on the other side of the entire country. That's a lot of distance to cover. Okay. Um, yeah.
I think my battery is quite low right now.
Oh no. Okay. Well, we're probably going to end soon, anyways. Yeah. So here's Russia. You see.
Yeah, yeah. And Halifax is 5 hours, you said,
Yeah. So no,
from where you.
no. So to get from Toronto to Montreal is about 5 hours, and then you have to drive from Montreal, and you have to drive all unless you go through the United States, but you probably wouldn't. I mean, I guess you could. But it's probably a lot of people are driving around that border, and then to get over this land bridge over here.
Hmm.
You'd have to. This is the only bridge over here, land bridge. I mean, maybe there's a bridge that goes here, but probably not. That's would have to be probably a huge bridge. So you're probably driving over here through Moncton, Sackville, and then getting into Amherst, and then to get to Halifax. So Halifax is right here. So you have to drive through all this and around here, and then you'd be able to get to Halifax from this road. So it'd be probably quite a bit of a drive. If you do, you probably want to
Yeah, but
fly there.
it's only one way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's this island here, Prince Edward Island, or Newfoundland. This is Newfoundland. Sorry, this is Prince Edward Island over here, but this big island is also part of Canada. So these are known as the prairies. Prairies, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I guess I'll have to cut your trip short right now because the low battery signal has popped up again.
All right. Well, that's fine. Um, all is good. It's always a fun conversation with you. I enjoy it.
Yeah, likewise.
And go charge your battery. And I will see you next week. And I guess we'll figure out what time.
Sure, we'll reconnect on Signal sometime and we'll figure out another time.
Sounds good. All right, man.
Yeah. So have a great weekend
You too.
and have good dreams about Halifax.
All right, man. Thank you. I'll see you
All
soon.
right. Bye.